The NFL season is a couple of days away, and the Houston Texans had an impressive preseason. Surprisingly, but impressive nonetheless. Understand, it's just preseason. But is that something they can build upon? Or was it just that? Just preseason? What's up, YouTube? Your boy back once again with another sport topic. And today we're going to talk some football, Houston Texans football. Today we're going to talk about, can the Houston Texans depend on their defense to carry them through the remainder of the season? Can they depend on their defense to carry them throughout the whole season? We're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down before we get in there. Like I've been telling you before, if you liking the content, make sure you liking the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you sharing the channel on all social media platforms. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, any type of social media platform you use. Make sure you're sharing this video and this channel on all those same social media platforms. Also, follow me on social media as well. The links in the description below. We're giving away 30 days free on Amazon Prime. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, what are you waiting on? The link is in the description. You get free 30 days. Who don't like free stuff? You get free 30 days of Amazon Prime if you sign up. The link is in the description to get that free 30 days. My social media links in the same description. So follow me on social media. Links in the description. Like I say, comment on the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Comment on all the videos, share the videos, like the channel, share the channel, and let's get the channel growing and growing and growing. Now, we're here to talk about it because we all know that Lovie Smith is a defensive-minded coach. He was the DC last year for the Houston Texans, and we've seen the jump from the 2020 defense to the 2021 defense. And when you watch the preseason, they actually play a very dominant brand of football when it comes to defense, especially their last game against the 49ers, which I think, to me, does hold some weight. Because that offense, like the 49ers actually had their real offense out there. They were running real plays. It wasn't, okay, we're being vanilla and stuff like that. Because the point that Kyle Shanahan was only going to give his starting offense 2 drives. He not only gave him a 3rd drive, he also went forward on 4th down because he was not impressed. He did not like what he's seen out of that offense. Now, that could be a little bit with Trey Lance and the offense and things like that. But I also think it has something to do with the way the defense was affecting them. Now, I know in the first preseason game against New Orleans, it was a little bit vanilla. That's the reason why Andy Dalton was able to go straight down there and score a touchdown. They ran a little bit vanilla type of defense. But the remaining of that game and also the game against the Rams, now, granted, the game against the Rams, no starters played, but they actually played and called the actual defense. It wasn't vanilla type of defense. And then obviously against the 49ers, they actually played defense for real, and they kept their stars out there for a nice good chunk. And it seems like this defense is trending in the right direction. Now, I said this a couple months ago that I believe that the Houston Texans should just know what they are. And what I mean by that is we should just be a franchise that's focused on defense. Like, if you go look at our franchise history, that we've played better and been a more believable football team, a more competitive football team, and a stronger football team when we focus on defense and lean on defense. Now, don't get me wrong. The team has been more fun to watch when we focus on offense. When you go back and look at, the years when Andre Johnson led the league in receiving, in the one year that Matt Schaub led the league in passing, the year that Arian Foster led the league in rushing. I mean, those 2 years in 2009, 2010 when Arian Foster led the league in rushing, 2010, and Matt Schaub led the league in passing in 2009. Those teams were fun to watch, but defensively they were not that good, and defensively they had a lot to be desired. And the team, in 2009 they won 9 games, but the year Arian Foster led the league in rushing, they only had 6 wins. We know about the Deshaun Watson years. Yeah, they were fun to watch in 2019. They were really fun to watch Deshaun Watson's rookie year, but bad defenses, and you didn't really trust the team, and they really didn't show anything. But if you go look at the years when they focused on defense, 2011, 2014, 2016, those to come to mind, those teams were more believable. The 2011 team, which I believe is the best Texan team in franchise history. I mean, if it wasn't for you having a 3rd string rookie quarterback playing, you probably would have beat the Ravens. In the 2014, which is probably J.J. Watt's most dominant, best year, if you look at the team, they won the last game against Jacksonville, and they needed, I think, Cleveland to win the last game of the season, and they lost. If they would have won that game, the Texans would win the wild card, and I believe the Texans would have made some type of noise as a wild card team. They were a team that was hot. They were rolling. I think they would have made some noise in the 2014 season, and in 2016, when the team was the number one defense in the NFL, when you had Clowney playing the way he was playing, Merciless playing the way he was playing, that defense, even though they did go up against Connor Cook against the Raiders, but they were very competitive for a long shot with the Patriots up until Brock Osweiler just became Brock Osweiler and Will Fuller dropping the easy-ass touchdown. But those defenses, those teams were more competitive. Those teams were more stronger, and those teams were more believable to actually have a shot. Now, outside of 2019, because you had Deshaun Watson and you beat Buffalo, which is probably the best playoff team you've beat in your franchise history, you really didn't. Now, I know, granted, when you have a quarterback, you always in games, so I understand that. But if you go back in hindsight 2020, obviously, when you go back and you look at those other teams were more believable. Like I say, 2011, 2014, 2016, those are stronger teams and more believable teams than 2010, 2009, 2010, and then 2019. They were. They actually were. I mean, now 2012, I think they're probably the biggest fraud Texas team we've had, for that team to go 5-0, 11-1, and off 12-4. But you see how that team folded. This other stuff went on that season. Mashal completely imploded. Just other things happened that season to show why that team was a fraud. But if you go back and look at the franchise history, the very first season, with our first couple Pro Bowlers were on defense. I know our inaugural season, we beat the Steelers. We went to Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers, who made the playoffs that year. We went there and beat Pittsburgh. We're only having less than 100 yards of offense. We had with 2 pick sixes returned. Like I said, David Carr and that offense had less than 100 yards of total offense, and we won that game. If I'm not mistaken, we blew Pittsburgh out. If I'm not mistaken, because we focused on defense. It was a dominant defensive effort, a dominant defensive performance. So I think if the franchise leans on their defense and they focus on their defense going forward, I think you'll have better results. Now, eventually, you're going to have to find a way to fix the quarterback position. If that is Davis Mills turned out to be the guy, or if you have to eventually draft a quarterback or get a quarterback another way. But I do believe eventually, obviously the quarterback position has to be settled as far as either Davis Mills being the guy, cementing himself as the guy, Davis Mills actually being the guy, or you go out and get a quarterback, via the draft or sign a quarterback, whatever. Listen, this is not a video talking about Davis Mills. I'm just saying that eventually you will have to have something on offense to potentially win championships. But I do believe that if you focus more on defense, I think that will carry this team going forward, and it seems like that's the way. And if you go back and look at Lovie Smith, who's a defensive guy, if you go back and look at the way his defense is carried, when you look at when he was in Chicago, his first year in Chicago, total defense, he was total defense, he was 21 and 13, 21 total yards in defense, 13 in points. That was his first year in 2004. But then his next year, second in yards, first in points. The year after that, in 2005, fifth in yards, third in points. Then he did drop down and go down to 28 and 16. Then he went to 21 and 16. Then he was 17 and 21. But then went back up to 9 in yards, 4 in points. Then was 5 in yards and 3 in points. His last year in Chicago, he won 10 games. They missed the playoffs, but he was 5 in yards and 3 in points. And his last year in Tampa Bay, he was 10th in yards. He was 26 in 10th in yards and 26 in points. So I mean, he has had some couple years in there where he was not a little pack. He was in the 20s and things like that, and had a year like I said where he was middle of the pack. But majority of the time he was top 10. Majority of the time he was top 10, and we've seen that, especially he took two different Bear teams to the NFC Championship game and one Bear team to the actual Super Bowl. So we know if he focuses on defense, when he focuses on defense and you have defensive talent and things like that, his teams normally win games. And when you look at how we attack the draft this year, we go out there, we go and draft Derek Stingley, we go and draft Petrie. We do some things defensively via free agency. We have a couple talent on defense when you talk about last year going after Robin Lopez. You're also talking about having Jonathan Gennard, expecting big things out of Jonathan Gennard. You see the emergence of Gruker Hill and also Christian Kersey. You've seen the emergence. Now, I do think they're going to end up eventually need help on the pass rush end because you can't just depend on Jonathan Gennard. He is yet to have double-digit sacks. I do think he will get double-digit sacks. I actually expect Jonathan Gennard to be a Pro Bowl this year. I believe if we only have one Pro Bowl on this team, it's going to be Jonathan Gennard. I believe Jonathan Gennard is going to be more likely be the number one Pro Bowl, even though I believe that Dameon Pierce more likely will be Rookie of the Year. And I know I've been talking a lot about Dameon Pierce. I'm very high on Dameon Pierce, and I think they're going to be leaning on Dameon Pierce as well. But that's what you're going to be doing. Relying on the defense, relying on the running game to win games. The goal of the Houston Texans is to keep the scores low and close. That's why I predict the Houston Texans to beat the Indianapolis Colts week 1. I said 17-13. They keep the scores low, force some turnovers, and able to keep Dameon Pierce in the game as far as running the football, keeping the ball out of the offense hands, keeping your defense fresh, run the football, keeping your defense fresh, keeping their offense on the sideline. And when the defense comes in, you come in, you send the dogs. You get pass rushing, you get blitzing. You do a lot of things to confuse and make an offense flustered. And I think that's what they're going to be doing. Now, is it going to result in a whole bunch of wins? I don't think this team is ready to go out there and win 8, 9, 10, 7 games yet. No. I think the team is going to win 6 games. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking the team's record is going to be 6-11. Possibly, I think 7-10 at the high mark. I think if that's if they win a game, they shouldn't, like how last year, how they sneak and beat the Chargers. If it's a game like that where you sneak and beat a team, I know we do play the Chargers again this year early on this season. If you sneak and get a game that you shouldn't win, I know a lot of people expect that to be the Colts game. I understand where people are coming from when it comes to that standpoint, but I just think that they're due to beat the Colts. I just think they're ready to beat the Colts. How the Colts are so much a favorite. I do believe the Colts are going to win the division. And I just think the Texans are going to come out there and they're going to run the football. They're going to play good defense. They're going to keep Matty Ice on the sideline. And the Houston Texans will win that game. But I do believe that they're going to be leaning and relying on their defense throughout the whole season. Until Davis Mills or the offense proves that they can win games on their own. But even still, when they do that, I still believe that the focal point of this team is going to be on defense. I believe that's how they're going to target free agency. That's how they're going to target the draft. I just believe that's how they're going to do things moving forward. It's focus on the defense. I know a lot of people are talking about Willie Anderson coming in next year's draft. Kelly Ringo also coming to the draft. You know how I am about the secondary. I really want them to shore up the secondary. I understand we have Stingley. I understand we have Petrie. But I do want to see other talent on the secondary because I want this defense to be, like I said, a suffocating type of defense where you don't let the offense breathe, like so you continue to fluster. Not only have the opposing quarterback confused, but have their offensive coordinator and their head coach confused, like you did against the 49ers. I was very, very impressed in that 49ers game. I understand it was the preseason. I know it's the preseason. Don't get it twisted. Trust me. If anybody knows about it, I know about preseason and have no stock in results. I'm one of those people. But I was impressed with the way the starters play. I like the way that Dameon Pierce looked, obviously, but even more so, and I didn't get a chance to talk about, I like the way that they had Kyle Shanahan look because I hold Kyle Shanahan in the high regard as offensive mind. When he was here in Houston, I always said that he was the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. I said that even when he went to Washington with his dad, I said that Kyle Shanahan was one of the best offensive coordinators I've seen. I think that Kyle Shanahan has a good offensive mind everywhere he goes. Quarterbacks play to the best of their potential. Obviously, Matt Schaub leads the league in passing. RG3 wins Rookie of the Year. Matt Ryan wins MVP, leads them to the Super Bowl. The way Kirk Cousins played as well. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, I think he coached Andy Dalton for a year, but I might be wrong about that. But everywhere he's gone, obviously the way Jimmy Garoppolo looked the year they went to the Super Bowl, like everywhere he's gone, he has quarterbacks play to the maximum of their ability, to the maximum of their potential. He has quarterbacks playing on a good level. And because of that, I hold him in a high regard when it comes to being an offensive-minded guy and an offensive mind. And he looked frustrated. I love the way that he looked being on the opposing team, obviously. The way that he looked, the confusion that he had, the frustration that he had, the unhappiness that he had watching his offense go out there with a quarterback who he handpicked, hand-selected, who they jumped up in the draft to get, and Trey Lance struggle, look confused against the Texans defense that doesn't have a J.J. Watt anymore. Doesn't have a Jadeveon Clowney anymore. Doesn't have a Whitney Merciless anymore. Doesn't have a Brian Cushing anymore. Doesn't have a D'Amico Ryans or Mario Williams or none of these big names have ever been associated with the Texans defense. Jonathan Joseph, AJ Bouye, Kareem Jackson, Aaron Glenn, Marcus Coleman, Dante Robinson. Like all the names that you can think of defensively. They've been Gary Walker, all the things you think of defensively, Jamie Sharper, all the things you can think of names defensively that's been associated with this Houston Texans defense over the franchise's years. None of these guys are on this defense, obviously, because we talking about names that ain't been playing football in 10 to 15 years in the most part. But they had these guys look confused, had these guys look frustrated and frustrated to the point where a guy who he has a whole season to get ready for, which a team that actually has Super Bowl aspirations, I'm going to give my offense another drive. I'm going to put my offense back out there. They get stopped. I'm going to go for it on fourth down. I'm going for it on fourth down. No. That's not the taste. I want a better taste in my mouth. I do not want that. Damn. Then we got stopped on fourth down. Like, that type of frustration was a good sign to see from a Texan fan standpoint. Now, are you going to get the every game? Absolutely not. Because the team, obviously, from a talent standpoint, doesn't have the talent yet. I do believe that Stingley, I do believe that Petrie, I believe that Lopez, Jonathan Gennard, they will get there eventually. But these guys are young guys, and they have yet to find their footing into the NFL. But in saying all that, I do believe that the defense is trending in the right direction, and definitely is going to be a mindset, that we're going to have to adopt as far as relying on the defense, relying on the running game to actually win games and move forward. Will it translate into wins? It should. How many wins will it translate to? We don't know. We have to let the season play out and see exactly how that goes. But I do believe that's going to be the mindset, and that's part of the reason why I'm glad that they hired Lovie Smith, because that's the mindset they need to go. Because if you look at the Texas history from the 2002 season up until now, even though you find funner teams like 2009, 2010, obviously 2017, Deshaun's rookie year, and 2019, funner teams to watch because the offense is fireworks and scoring, the touchdowns, whatever. But they really didn't win a lot, and they really weren't believable when they went to the playoffs. But then when you look at the teams that focus on defense, 2011, 2014, 2016, even with suspect quarterback play, they were believable, better teams. And you believe of what they can do if they can get into the extra season, the postseason, and show what they can do. Like, subscribe if you haven't, comment below if you haven't, click that bell, get more videos. Holla.